We are going to start the roundtable discussion for the plenary, and we are expanding the points of view in this segment to include Kumara Jati from Indonesia, Chitran from Hong Kong, and Maynard Malion from the Philippines. And so this part of the day, the plenary roundtable session, is to continue to gather the perspective of other nations around the Pacific Rim as far as the economy is concerned. I very carefully put all the U.S. government representatives later on in the day in their own session. So this is basically other countries' view of what is going on. We're going to start. Kumara has a few slides that he would like to go over very, very quickly. So you can take the microphone, run your slides. We're kind of rushing, but I want to make sure we have time for other people to share their perspectives. So go ahead.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity. The moderator, Mr. Dennis Santiago, distinguished speakers, Mr. Maynard from Philippine Trade Representative, and from U.S.-Mexico Chambers of Commerce, President CEO, Mr. Albert. Thank you, sir. And then from Hong Kong Trade Development Council. In this wonderful opportunity, I would like to present about a U.S. trade opportunity. Next slide, please. This is just a data comparison, the macroeconomic data between Indonesia and US. Indonesia is the third most populous country in the world, like around 285 million. US is the third most populous country with 343 million. And both countries are part of the $1 trillion country. Indonesia with GDP total 1.5 trillion, US with the 30.3 trillion, and both have good macroeconomic condition and stable, so many opportunities can be developed between both countries. And if you can see the population, so Indonesia is more to the larger young population from 0 to 14 years old, and US is more to the adult from 40, 50 until above 60 years old. So if you have any business, maybe you can target this scope of ages. And in terms of global economic growth, so there is slightly slowing down but still positive, so we're still optimistic about this economic and trade. Next. So next slide, this is just trade balance between Indonesia and US. So in 2024, we have the increase of export around 11%, become 38.2 billion. And then in US is the second largest contributor of non-oil and gas in the last maybe 1 or 2 years. So this is the main trading partner of Indonesia. And then the sectors is contributed from non-oil and gas. So we have some products I will show you later. And even in January and May, even in April and May, still the export is increased. Even though there is a 10% of import tariff of US, the export is still increased. Next. This is the 20 Indonesian export products to US. So we have the 4 biggest, like machinery equipment, and then clothing and accessories, and then footwear. We have also the cocoa, processed food. We have so many products. If you want to have supplies from Indonesia, just contact us. We have the Indonesian consulate there, and also from BRI. We can support you. Next. This is the US main trading partners, Mexico, China, Canada, German. We are in the 20th rank, so yeah, because of the deficit, US want to impose another reciprocal tariff, but later we'll wait for the executive order and the details of the HS code. Next. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, in this wonderful event, we would like to invite each and every one of you to come to Indonesia. We have Trade Expo Indonesia, is the 40th edition. In 15 until 19 October, it will be inaugurated by our President Prabowo. So we have a big event there. So usually bring delegates from US, from another around the world. So please contact us if you want to come to Indonesia. Maybe you want to go to Jakarta or Bali. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Now, the thing to take away from that presentation is that the Pacific Rim is a vibrant economy. And it is a huge economy with a lot of people. Here's a little factoid for you. There are approximately 2.1 billion people that use Facebook every day. There are only 340 million Americans. That's a lot of the rest of the world out there. So it's these countries that have populations, trade. Indonesia produces oil, manufacturing. All of the other countries of the Pacific Rim all do that. You just heard from Mr. Zapanta how big Mexico is, all right? And he already went, we won't cover it in as much depth unless some of the other countries represented here want to discuss their position on it. But so we are looking at a regime right now that could change, as was pointed out, what are called asymmetric tariffs with certain countries, where the U.S. can get in for nothing and other countries have to pay tariffs to get their goods in here. There's a regime of something called quota and overflow, which is something that is particularly part of what happens with U.S., Canada, Mexico. Most goods, even now, despite what you hear in the news, 95% of all the trade that goes back and forth between these countries is duty-free. And then there's tariffs that are imposed for the overflow above and beyond that. And I tried to get the Department of Commerce here to explain that later in the day, but they're not coming. That basically they're down to one staffer that can explain this thoroughly, but I hope to get them for a FACCFI thing that they can explain this a little bit better at another session in the future. Given all this stuff, the question I have for the panelists as they introduce themselves, and I would like to introduce yourselves individually again, is where do you see the countries that you represent going first in the next 4 years, and then where do you think the Pacific Rim economy goes by the mid-century? Because there's the immediate future and the far future of where this entire economic system is going. And this economic system is going to get there, regardless of what happens politically, right? Because this is just the way things go. So let us start off with, ladies first, Hong Kong.
Hello?
Did it work?
Hello? Okay. Hi, everyone. So for those of you guys not familiar with the Hong Kong Trade Development Council, we are a quasi-government agency, essentially to promote Hong Kong as a two-way business and investment hub. We have 50 global offices, 3 in the US, LA, Chicago, and New York. I am based out of the LA office, so I oversee the western region of the US. And my role here in LA is essentially to support and promote Hong Kong's role as a link connecting international companies with opportunities, and not just Hong Kong, but you know, we see a lot of opportunities, connection between Hong Kong, the Greater Bay Area, mainland China, and the ASEAN region. So in terms of I guess, you know, opportunities in the region, you know, it continues. Hong Kong in Q1 of 2025, you know, our economy continued to grow by, it was 3.1% year over year. Our merchandise export increased 12.5 year over year. You know, Hong Kong is one of the most service-oriented economies in the world, where our service sector makes up 3.5% of our total GDP, and this was in 2023. So, Hong Kong, we have established ourselves in terms of, our robust infrastructure, our business-friendly policies, and this has continued to attract international companies around the world to set up in Hong Kong and use Hong Kong as that base to not just access, mainland China, but the ASEAN region, because in terms of strategic location, we're talking about within 5 hours of half of the world's population. I mean, from Indonesia is less than 5 hours, to Vietnam, it's around 3.5 hours. So that's, one reason in terms of strategic location. The other advantages that Hong Kong has is its business-friendly policy. It has a very low tax rate. It operates under the common law, so it has an independent judiciary legal system. And then infrastructure. We have made a lot of investments over the past few years to create a very integrated transportation system to move goods, people between Hong Kong, China, and Southeast Asia. So, for all these different reasons, a lot of companies continue to use Hong Kong as this base for their growth in the region. Actually, in terms of US companies, we currently have just less than 1,400 US companies that set up in terms of an office location in Hong Kong, using Hong Kong as that base. And then in terms of ASEAN countries as well, just last year, within the first 7 months, 50 ASEAN countries set up office in Hong Kong to use Hong Kong as a base to explore other markets in the region as well. So yeah.
Oh, thank you. The takeaway, right? Because there's a takeaway to everything of this. This is one port city or one port on the western side of the Pacific Rim. There are many more ports on the western side of the Pacific Rim. Some of them are developing. Did you know there's a free port opening up in Saipan, which is what they call the second island chain and all of these things are going to be there by 2050 as far as places to do business for US companies seeking to get into the Pacific Rim. The places to get in and out of Asia in particular are going to become, there's going to be more of them. The other thing that's going to be happening is because of the way the structure is going, is there's going to be more trade between all these Asian countries on the western side of the Pacific, which basically means something that looks more like the European Union is also in the future. And there's a way for people here to need to plan to get into some of that action as well. And I'm sure the people that run Hong Kong would love to have more, another 400 American companies set up there as part of getting into that type of thing, because there are many more companies that are set up in Europe to do business with the EU, and that's also going to be happening in the Pacific. We'll turn next to the one person, the country that is most represented here that has not yet spoken, and that would be the Philippines. The objectives of the Philippines in this matrix of the Pacific Rim in the near future and by mid-century, at the very top level, if you could.
Hello, good morning. My name is Consul Francis Maynard Malian. I'm the Philippine Consul of the Philippines here in LA, covering political and economic section. I'm representing, of course, for my jurisdiction is we cover Southern California, Southern Nevada, and Arizona. The Philippine economy grew about 5.4% in the last quarter, and that's ahead of a lot of countries, even first world countries, as you people would say. So we are tracking well, especially the biggest revenue maker for the Philippines is semiconductors, for example. In 2025, it's poised to be about $8.1 billion that we will have in revenue based on semiconductors. And with the CHIPS Act that is happening, which will boost the semiconductor industry in the Philippines even more, this could be, in the next 5 years, it could really increase much, much more. But besides that product or that industry, the strength of the Philippines, of course, it's people. And there are a lot of Filipinos outside the country. I know that for a fact because my jurisdiction covers about 1.2 million Filipinos already. And that is the biggest diaspora outside the Philippines. And there are a lot of Filipinos who are, Filipinos are in every industry. And when you say you're in every industry, which means your hand is in every industry. And all these industries help the Philippine economy. I think last year alone, it's about $38 billion that came into the Philippines. So that is OFW remittances. But when we talk about OFW remittances, all people think about is, let's say, domestic helpers or unskilled workers. But a lot of money that comes into the Philippines are coming from professionals, business owners, small business owners such as the people around here. And all these people are contributing to the Philippine economy as well. Whether directly or indirectly through trade, for example, we have our friends here from EC Federal, for example, and a small business who do supermarkets, bringing products here to the US and around the world. Or indirectly through our participation again in a lot of other industries around the world. I've been to, I'm not bragging, but I'm saying like I've been to like 60 countries already, and every country has a Filipina. And I've been to the smallest countries in the world, and all of them are earning money and sending back to the Philippines. So the economy, as we years go by, we will still be part of every economy in the world. The Philippines will be part of every economy in the world. And all of that will be funneled back to the Philippines. And in 2050, we're aiming to have a $2 trillion economy. I think we're still tracking towards that. Hopefully, with people like you, people here, Filipinos here, we can make that a reality.
Okay, so what's the takeaway from that? By 2050, economies that were traditionally behind the technology, infrastructure, industry curve are going to be caught up, and you're going to be looking at a Western Pacific Rim full of counterparty trading partners with advanced capabilities to do business with each other and with the eastern side of the Pacific Rim, which takes us to the last comment that I would like to ask and turn it back to our now good friend, General Zapata. What does that mean for the entire Pacific Rim and for the Americas in this? And we've got approximately about a couple minutes there.
Okay, can you hear me okay? Good. Yeah, I think looking at the future is really going to be determined on a couple of things. The number one thing is population growth. Everywhere in our countries, population is up and it's continued to grow. So then that works towards how is the economics going to work and how is the flow based upon what's going on also with artificial intelligence, IT, all these kinds of things that are supposed to make business and the ability for us to operate, not only individually as a country, but also regionally and globally. So let me give you some really quick facts. Between the NAFTA countries of Canada, US, and Mexico, we are bordering on $2 trillion of trade, import-export. of which Mexico and Canada are over $300 billion. So the US is 3 times that. So stop and think about that as to how does that portend for your future now and in the next 15 years. It means that you have an opportunity to get into the service and the product side of the supply chain. And that means also there's going to be needs for, and there's a lot of needs on the healthcare. The Philippine Islands have exported a lot of healthcare workers ever since the Second World War. There's other kinds of activity. So to kind of give you where your future is take a look at this huge $2 trillion operation that's flowing right here in your home city, your home state, and in our region. And so I say that to you because start to look at the 2 things. One is the beginning of the discussions on the USMCA between the 3 nations, which will really start moving starting right after the first of the coming year. And then look at the Pacific Alliance. You've talked a little bit about it, so guess what? There's a chance for you all to play. And then finally, tariffs. Take a look at what's out there, but it's not final. So thank you.
All right. So, so this was the session on the perspective of other countries vis-a-vis trade. If you want to hear the other side of it, of the U.S., stick around till 4 o'clock, because I'm working hard today. There's another session at 4 where I got the U.S. government coming in to go talk about their side of things. But I would very much like to thank the perspectives that have been shared by these very fine panelists to share the information that they have with all of you. And if we have a round of applause for them, please.